Now, with it looking like Arsenal have finally agreed to get Andrea Berta in as their new sporting director, his work will start next week when the contracts have been signed. In this video, we're going to look at what his immediate responsibility is going to be within the club and what you can expect from him with the upcoming transfer windows in Arsenal's history. So let's get into it. Now, with the fact there's not a lot of positive things about Arsenal right now, considering the game at the weekend and I think how the fans feel, I think it's a good time to look towards the future and talk about Andrea Berta, who looks to be confirmed any day now. Now, we spoke about him in large last week about who he is, his history, what you can maybe expect from him, but now I want to look at the responsibility he's going to have within the club off the bat and how I think he could go about dealing with that and how he could go about dealing with the future and what Arsenal can do if things don't necessarily work out with him. So I do think it is a layered approach to it. Now, first of all, his major thing is going to be probably next summer more than anything. Unfortunately, or fortunately, how you look at it, I think Arsenal will already have their targets in mind for this summer and probably have other targets that they're looking at, or maybe a market opportunity will come up that they may go in for and may try to sign. From an actual recruitment standpoint, I think he will most likely be looking a little bit more into the future, maybe January, maybe next summer, because Arsenal will have an idea of who they want to buy in their markets, but it won't necessarily pan out exactly how you wanted it to. And what I mean by this is that when Arsenal were trying to sign Rice, for instance, we had a couple of years where we spoke to him and then the year kind of fell into place where that was the right time to get him. But there has been a history of it not always working like that. I remember a few years ago, there was a lot of talk about Arsenal having Evan Ferguson on their list, and you probably would have seen Arsenal even go for him last summer or maybe this summer, and it just hasn't materialised because he hasn't grown as a player and he is really struggling at West Ham, not getting game time at Brighton. This is where Andrea Berta comes in, because I do think from a sporting director, we will truly never know what their impact is on that team, especially from a recruitment standpoint, but he is going to have to try and get deals over the line in the future. He's going to have to work with the analytical based system that we have, the complete recruitment team we have, and obviously Arteta. With a few months going up to the end of next summer, he will have to look at players that Arsenal can buy and who we need different positions for, which I think is important. But for this year, it's still going to be a lot of responsibility on Andrea Berta to get these signings over the line. Not only do the fans, I think, expect more than anything right now from Arsenal, I think it is a big expectation, a big job to take with a lot of pressure on, where he is going to be given some responsibility. Now, it's definitely been said that Diego Simeone has pretty much all responsibility in Atletico Madrid, so some of the signings that they make are definitely going to be catered towards him. Most of the players that he wants, he gets, and that's why you may have seen Atletico Madrid overpay for certain players, such as João Felix's. They bought Griezmann twice under Andrea Berta, which may not be the same thing at Arsenal. Now, I do think Mikel Arteta at Arsenal has an incredible amount of power and will probably be an Arsenal manager at least for the next 2 years, probably a lot longer if we're going to be realistic. Unless he gets bought away and decides to leave after achieving a lot, I can't really see him giving up or the board sacking him anytime soon, which means he's going to have the same sort of responsibility to work with a manager who's going to be in there long term, where they have to come to certain agreements on players but also have different opinions on different options. As much as Arteta has, I think, pretty much free reign in our club, I don't think he has free reign at all when it comes to the money we can spend and recruitment. And if he wants to spend loads of money on one certain player, I'm sure that Tim Lewis, Richard Garlick and now Andrea Berta, if they do not agree, it probably won't go that way. I think maybe every summer we let Arteta buy one player he specifically wants, or maybe a couple, but there's definitely players that we don't let him have and then give him what the sporting director wants if it's cheaper, i.e. last year it was Neto and Sterling who he didn't really want and we kind of threw at him, and he got his Mourinho who he wanted. He was a cheaper signing, and Ricardo Calafiori who he also wanted as well, but not getting that striker in didn't help us. Now, straight away, I think Arsenal fans from Andrea Berta are going to expect more pushback on Arteta specifically. We don't know how much Edu had of that pushback, but we want him to have more power and actually be able to gauge opinions in there. But we also want deals to be over the line. It's going to be his job out of anyone to go to these players and get them to sign on that dotted line. Now, there's all these stories about him being hard to deal with and sometimes being a great negotiator but very stern. We don't know if that's true, and a lot of it hasn't really been based on much evidence, so I wouldn't believe it necessarily. But that is going to be his job in the forefront. He can't put his ego in front of the club. He's going to have to do what the club say, at least in some players, even if he doesn't agree, especially this summer when we already have who we want in mind, and we need him to get connection to get other people into the team. Now, I've seen a lot of people say that the Arsenal director of football job, I mean, from the outside of Arsenal fans, isn't probably the hardest job in the world, but it is a lot of pressure. I say this because realistically, Arsenal have their plan in place for the next few years. They probably have money set out, who know who they want to get, know what contracts they want to sign, and at least there's a lot of stability with Arsenal, with the fact we have Arteta there, with the fact we have certain people going to be there probably for a while now, than you get at other clubs. Now, this I do kind of agree with. I think that it's going to be a little bit easier because he can come in and definitely put his name in there and make his name known, but he isn't necessarily going to be that guy that has to do everything. We already have a whole recruitment team for that. However, what I want it from him specifically is him to actually take people, maybe cheaper options, I think, around Europe and especially in that South American market, and get these young players in to sort of elevate the squad. Now, a lot of people won't think this is important, and it is whatever you think, but I still think Arsenal needs to do a better job at signing youngsters from other academies and get them in early and actually show them more loans out. I think we need to get more better selling as a club, and that will only help if we get better recruitment from young ages. The more you sign cheaper young age options, then you'll be able to sell them for a bit more money, which is exactly what I'm looking at from Andrea Berta, more than someone like Arteta, because I don't expect Arteta to be going out there and recommending 16, 17-year-olds who aren't going to be good enough for the first team, who we can loan out for a few years and then get more money for. That's not his job. That should be the people above to make more money for the club. And if these youngsters turn into good players, then we've got them for cheap early. That it should be the whole point of the Arsenal recruitment model that we need to really get into. And I do want us to get back into that sort of buying younger before prime players, and some players in their prime as well, rather than getting older players who we expect a lot from now and they're just not dealing with it. Like Marino, I think he's a good player, but at 28, I want him to be performing week in, week out, which is just not the case. I also think from a director of football or technical director or sporting director, whatever you want to call it, at Arsenal, I think it is very important that Arsenal's fans get a figurehead for the club that isn't Arteta. We can't just keep having the same mistakes, even this year when it's been a very negative atmosphere, I think, around the team. Can't be all on one man, and even the other years when it's been a positive effect, it's all been on Arteta. Ultimately, he is not the person that's making all the transfers. He's not the person doing everything. He is the main guy at the club right now. Of course, he's the head coach, he's the manager, he's the leader, but he isn't running every single market, so to blame him and kind of put him as a responsibility for all of it, I don't think is fair. Now, this is something I did actually like a lot with Edu. He was in the photos, he was in videos, he'd go to all our draws, he'd be talking to the fans, even with that Sterling deal on transfer deadline day, he explained it in that interview on the channel, and I think that is very important. I don't think it's important for a sporting director to do that at every club in the world. I think certain clubs are different, but I think it's important at Arsenal, because if not, you give too much power to Arteta to basically do what he wants and say what he wants, and I just don't think that's necessarily the right way you should go about things. I think sometimes you have to have other people show their face and show it is an organisation working together rather than just Arteta maybe going rogue, which obviously doesn't necessarily mean that, but I just think that is a better learning curve that we can have. Now, he is passionate. There's not too many videos and photos of him at Atletico Madrid, but like I said, Simeone has power, and how that club is run is different in Spain to England, so it will be yet to see if he will be able to do that, but he has been learning English. Probably won't know it brilliantly at the start, but eventually he can get there and get to that level where he can show himself. I want to see interviews with this guy, even if it is in Italian or Spanish, translated to English, where he's talking about the transfers or recruitment and at least getting us somewhat excited. I think it's very important that they get the fans on their side at the end of the day, and that trust is built again. We had that trust with Edu, I'd say, over a couple of years. Some people didn't, that's fair enough, but then this year that trust was kind of broken completely with the summer, and then eventually it obviously didn't go well and he left. It's the same with Jason Ato. It's not like he would have necessarily done a bad job, but it's just because in that January, I personally don't think he had any power to really dictate who Arsenal signed, and already that trust was lost with the fans because they sort of blamed him for the fact that no one was bought, which is probably quite unfair, but that is something that is very important, and I think Andrea Berta, to build that up with the team, build that up with the fans, needs to be vocal, needs to be present, and needs to make himself heard, I think, most importantly. And probably the last thing that you expect for him is to be able to get deals in the market. He's come from Atletico Madrid, where he's got a lot of experience. He's come from the Serie A, where he was before, and also has a lot of experience in Italia as well, and we need him to be able to get deals with these certain clubs on players. And I think Arsenal are moving, maybe unfortunately or fortunately, it depends how you look at it, looking at more La Liga players than anywhere else. I'm wearing the Spanish shirt right now, and I think that they will end up buying more and more. We've seen it with Arteta specifically. He likes them Basque players, Raya, Marino, Subamendi now linked, Nico Williams, it's quite clear that Arsenal are trying to move into that sort of system, which is fine. I don't mind that at all. And I think Andrea Berta being from that league is one of the reasons why he's come in. So we need to get deals. If we do end up getting Nico Williams, we need to get him for maybe a little bit more than his release clause, but on less money, where we're paying them less money per year. So right now we can fund it a bit better. We need to get Subamendi on the same sort of deal. It's something that we might have to do, and I want good deals. I want these players also to be on relatively decent wages, not like Nico Williams, who might bankrupt the club if he wants to be the second or third highest player. And I just do not think we can really realistically do that. That, in my opinion, comes down to the sporting director as well, where he has to manage them things a lot better. And that will be his job ultimately at the club. I don't think from a recruitment standpoint, he's going to be given all the power in the world. And I don't think as well sporting directors that a lot of clubs have that sort of power. It is still more of a team effort, and there has to be a lot of back and forth of who players actually get bought. But when it comes to actually negotiating for a player, that's when he comes into his realm, convincing players to join, which we know Arteta is brilliant at as well, but getting them wages down, getting them transfer fees down, which is going to be important for the club. And also, I do want Arsenal to give him some freedom. If we give Andrea Berta maybe 20 million a season and go and get some youngsters from South America or Italy or Spain, I would like that. I think we need to do that a lot more and give him that sort of power, because he is experienced. It's not like Jason Ato. This guy has experience at the highest level. And I think Arsenal just need to take some risks, especially low-end risks, I think, in the market a lot more. Maybe high-end risks, you can argue, not always worth it. It's going to financially not help us, but some of them could be good players. And I think where we at right now, I think we know who we want to get, so it's a little bit different. But low-end risks, I think there's loads of players out there. And don't be scared, because we bought Lokongo, didn't really work out. Bought Tavares, which was realistically a no-loss player, because we spent the amount of money we're probably going to get back from him anyway. So just do these sort of transfers a little bit more around the world, and that's what I expect personally from him right now and into the future. Now let me know what you guys think in the comments about Andrea Berta. As much as the club right now, I think there's a lot of stuff going on about us that I don't agree with, a lot of stuff that I think is maybe blown out of proportion, but also a lot of stuff I agree with as well. I think there's a lot going on, and I didn't really want to do another video about talking about Arsenal's problems, because I just don't think anyone really wants to see that, to be honest. But let me know what you guys think in the comments, and let me know what player you're the most excited for us to potentially sign this summer, who you think's realistic and you would love to see at the club. Thank you guys for watching. I'll see you in the next one.